Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicola Barrett, Chief Corporate Learning Officer at Emory Executive Education at Goizueta Business School, and wonderful to have you joining us today. Before we start, for those who've been impacted by Hurricane Helene and the aftermath of that as she came inland, our thoughts and best wishes are for you. And if anyone's seen Bob Lurie, who's one of our master practitioners, please ask him to reach out and say he's okay. October is homecoming at Emory, and so we've chosen to feature a couple of the Goizueta alums in our 2 October Business Over Breakfast webinars. And today we're proud to welcome our first of those 2 alums, Goizueta Executive MBA alum Chris Adams, who's going to be our executive practitioner and guest speaker to talk about talent. More specifically about how to connect with and invest in your team to best achieve their individual goals and through them, your team and organizational goals. The merit of a leader shows up in your team, not just the level of achievement, but also the level of trust, collaboration, and engagement. That's why every leader should be working hard to attract and retain the best possible talent. And that goes beyond just choosing the right talent. How do you best have the talent choose you? Make your life easier, right? So that's the subject of today's Business Over Breakfast with Chris about becoming a talent magnet. So a little bit about Chris. He currently serves as the Vice President of Sales at E2Open, which is a supply chain software company where he leads a high-performance sales team, driving revenue growth and client retention. Throughout his adult life, Chris has demonstrated his gift of supporting the growth of others, whether on the playing field, coaching youth soccer, or leading teams of business professionals. He specializes in developing and mentoring individual contributors and managers, focusing on nurturing their talent and enhancing leadership skills to build strong and effective teams. And doesn't every leader want to have those people working with and for them? Before I hand it over to Chris, I do want to highlight a couple of short courses that are especially geared to help you be more successful in today's ever-changing market. And if there's one thing that is a constant, and that is change, and regardless of where you are in your career, that ability to handle that change, lead through that change, and direct your organization through the change is critically important. One of those short courses is, in fact, Navigating Change for Growth, which explores not only the models of change, but how to use the skills of inquiry, discovery, and growth orientation to lead that change, whether it's a small or a large initiative. Not only will you learn, but with faculty guidance, you're going to create a change playbook for a specific initiative that you're responsible for. So you're going to come away with your plan of action and understanding where the hurdles are and where to use what skills for leading that change successfully. The second course is Disrupting Your Business Strategy, which really equips leaders at all levels in the organization to view your business through a new lens, connect the dots between changing customer needs and leveraging innovation to meet those needs with agility. So I hope you'll check out those 2 courses on our website, and I think one of the team has put it into the chat. So back to Chris. As with all our webinars, Chris is going to spend about 30 to 35 minutes exploring how you can become a talent magnet within your organization. And then we will have about 10 or 15 minutes of Q&A. So please put your questions in the Q&A box or the chat, and we will get to as many of those as we possibly can in the hour. So over to you, Chris. I'm really interested to learn from you this morning.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nicola and Nicola, sorry, and brilliant introduction. So before we kick things off, I would love to hear how many people are on your team, or how many people are within a project that you're working on, So if you could just drop those numbers in the chat and we'll revisit those later. But yeah, so Rachel's got 40, 25 from Virginia, and then 3 for Cynthia. Ben got 25. Hello, Ben. 6 for Amma. Fantastic. So wide variety there, from smaller teams through to quite big teams as well. So and hopefully this is going to be all relevant for whatever size team you have, but keep that number there. And like I said, we'll revisit that shortly. So, and we should be able to see the screen now. One of the team, let me know if that's not showing up correctly. Okay, so becoming a talent magnet. Okay, so Nicola's already given me a very good introduction. So yeah, I'm a Goizueta alum from 2021 and VP of Sales for E2Open. I run a global mid-market team. So I oversee a team across the entire world, EMEA, APAC, and the Americas. And then within my business unit, I have 24 people that I lead right now. I am also a Six Sigma green belt. And then, as Nicola mentioned, I've also got a couple of coaching licenses, a USSF C license and a Football Association coaching license as well. So anyone who likes soccer is probably familiar. But the reason I bring that part of it up is I spent many, many years coaching soccer to youth and helping develop kids. And it was amazing how much of that skill set I was able to transition into the business world. For those of you who've got kids, we're constantly trying to develop them, and we're trying to make them the best they can be. But sometimes we get into the business world, and then we just expect everybody to know everything, and then we lose our focus of development. So that's going to thread into the theme of today. So with this session today, I'm really just sharing my experiences. Does not necessarily mean that I'm right. This is just things that have worked for me that I would love to share with you all. So I've been in this role that I'm in now for the last 12 months. And within that time, I've had 0 voluntary attrition. Within that time, I've also had 1 major promotion of a salesperson into a director position. And over that 12 months, my team has outperformed themselves quarter over quarter. And again, just to show a little bit of social proof, it's easy for me to sit here and say, hey, this is why I'm good at what I do. But just a couple of comments from previous work colleagues. Chris would be an asset in any organization looking to not only grow revenue, but also people, as he understands how the two go hand in hand. And then Shane said he makes everyone better around him. So again, whilst I provide that as social proof and hopefully give a little bit of credibility to what I'm showing to you today, doesn't mean that I've not made many, many mistakes. And I'll share a story with you a little bit later on where I've got it badly wrong myself, right? We're working with people. There's a lot of nuances to it all, and it changes. So let's have a look at what's the challenges faced by business leaders today. So if we think about our employees here or our teammates here, how many times have we felt this way ourselves, or people have left, and when they leave, these are the reasons that they cite. They say, I wanted to, I feel undervalued, lack of career progression, I'm just not developing, and I'm being micromanaged. Now, I'll put a star against micromanaged because sometimes some people need to be micromanaged in order to get the best performance out of them. However, the one that I'm referring to here is where we just do a lot of the telling, and we never really try and get these people and our teammates, our employees to provide us their thoughts and their insights. So, and then what happens? Attrition increases. According to Gallup, it can actually cost around about 1.5x to 2.2x of an employee's salary to get that person replaced. So, and plus the heartache and the effort of going through the hiring process again. And then performance decreases, increased workload per person. And then who are the people who leave? It's the top performers. Why? Because they can. And then everything just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy from there. Performance goes down, more people leave, performance keeps going down. So sometimes we have to get ourselves out of that cycle. So just using the chat function there, have you witnessed one of your superstars leave on your team when it was completely within the manager's control or the business's control? Has anyone gone through that experience? Pop a yes or a no in there. Yep. Virginia has, Cynthia has, Stephanie has, Amber has, Jennifer has, Maurice has, Scott has. Oh, Scott avoided it. Good. Glad to hear that, Scott. Danielle has. So yeah, there's multiple people there. Chandra has. Yes, yeah, it didn't have to be at this company. So why do I believe this happens? So this is the challenges that's faced by businesses and leaders in fast-paced environments. We've got more responsibility than ever these days. And these are two of the buckets which are part of our job roles. The expectation, as always, is that we produce high-level work consistently. And if we can carve out some time to develop our teammates, wonderful. And as a result, this is where I think most leaders probably spend their efforts. And I'll be lying if I said I haven't structured my time that way as well. Business outcomes become the priority and people development, unfortunately, is cast to the side. Now, of course, these circles can change, and sometimes we need to be more people focused depending on what's happening in the business. But ultimately, this is our day in and day out. However, I feel there's a different way. So essentially what we're looking at and what we're trying to achieve is the intersection here. And that's where the magic happens. And that is where we want to spend our time. And that's what I'm going to try and offer some ideas on today. So we work in that area there, and that's where we're going to get all the magic happening. So now I spoke earlier about where I made a mistake. So we had a lot of organizational change at one point. And then I really started becoming focused on the business outcomes and just focusing on business. And then I had one employee who was pretty unhappy, and the way they reacted to that was they started causing me challenges. And then I handled it wrong because it became a bit of an ego clash. I wanted to, no, this is my way and this is how it should be done. And then what I did find out is they were very influential on the team. And then before I knew it, I had several people against me. Now, this is one of those situations where attrition can start going up. Oh, I don't like being here. And then I start losing all my top talent because I'm not handling it correctly. And I really put myself in that position there. I've got only myself to blame. So I had to check the old saying, I'll check my ego at the door. And then I had to have a very authentic conversation with them. I said, look, I feel I'm being very frustrating towards you right now. And I want to get an understanding as to why I'm frustrating you. How can I help you? And there was a lot of the business challenges as well, which sometimes we can't necessarily move those rocks, but the point was that they were being heard and I was supporting them in areas where we could help. But also as well, they felt they weren't being developed enough. It was just all about turning up to work, clocking in, clocking out, and they were not being developed. So I actually spent a little bit of time in the evenings and I put a little plan together for them. And I actually spent time just putting a couple of slides together every week. And I would share some of the insight. Oh, sorry, they wanted to be a manager. So I shared some insights every week just on what's going on. And then I would give a homework and they would go away and they would do the homework and we'd come back next week. And it wasn't the greatest investment in my time in terms of duration of time. It was a half-hour meeting a week. And I spent about half an hour to an hour prepping every week. And then, yep, they did it week in, week out. And then ultimately that person then got promoted into a managerial position over in the UK for our company. And yeah, got to experience that. So, and just to share a personal part of that. They the last day in the office, they left me a present. They left me a note on my desk, and I actually still keep that note in my wallet to this day, just to remind myself when things are not going well, that you can always turn it around. So I wanted to share that as a personal story of when I've got it wrong, and but it's never too late. Well, it could be too late, but there's always time to turn it around. Okay. So when we do hit that middle area, what we start doing now is development for people. We provide them career progression. And then for the business part of it, we start providing innovation, and we become you'll offer a competitive advantage. Okay. So who do we spend our time with? I saw somebody put 40 in there, and someone put 3 in there. Both are extraordinary amount of time that we might have to spend with people. So in short, you should spend some time with everybody. One-on-one weekly meetings are foundational. I will always have my one-on-one meetings. Don't ever skip them. Put them on the calendar. Sometimes they're going to have to move. Business needs happen and organizational needs happen, but don't skip a week. Find a way to keep that in your calendar for the week. And then on your first one-on-one, what is that person's career aspirations? They've come to your organization for a reason. What was that reason? So what's your career? Where would you like your next step to be? Or where can I help you develop? Where do you feel some of your areas you're not strong in right now? So have that real deep conversation with them and lead it with authenticity. And then, of course, as always, you want to have your KPIs and performance. So we're starting to link it all together. So how are they performing as well throughout the one-on-ones? And then always find a little bit of time to do some coaching and development within that one-on-one. Hey, person X, you did this last week. Tell me, what do you think about that? And then find out what their thoughts were on what would you do differently given the chance. And then offer some creative feedback for yourself, okay? Stand-up meetings with a team. Very good way, and especially in this remote environment that we all live in today. Stand-up teams and linking up with your teams constantly is always going to help as well, okay? A lot of the time we'll set everybody on their way, everybody's got their jobs, and then we just don't touch base with them for weeks. So have stand-up meetings, even if it's a 5-minute, how's everybody doing in the morning, right? Everybody knows the tasks, off we go. So again, just find ways to connect and that will help. And then also, I think most of you, or a lot of you, should be familiar with a 9-box talent review. If you're not, welcome to this. And there's plenty of information around on these. So if you're not familiar with it, no problem. It's very easy to find some good documents on it. So this is a 9-box talent. You got potential on the y-axis and then performance on the x-axis. So depending on where your teammates are or your employees are, is how we would want to work with people. So now you start to think about, okay, where are the people who are the talent and how do I keep them? So again, some of it's in scope and some of it's not in scope for this presentation, but I'm happy to talk about all 9 boxes with anybody after the fact. But really, that's where we want to spend a fair bit of focus. Now, that doesn't mean that we neglect everybody who I've just erased off there, because you've got your superstars up here, so we don't want to neglect them whatsoever. However, my point is this is where you might want to spend a little bit of extra attention on. So these are the people with some good coaching and some good development are going to move into that star area, and ultimately you are going to be supporting them in that movement. And then that's when they walk away saying, I really enjoy working for my boss. I really love working with my colleagues. That's how you have to think of it. So let's go back to the number that everybody put into the chat earlier. Think about this now. And again, you can do this a lot more detail, but just off the top of your head, out of the number that you provided earlier, how many of those people might reside within the 4 boxes there? So put your numbers in there. And again, I'm not going to remember exactly who, but what number, so what percentage it was of your team, but I'll be interested to see how many you think would be up there. 80%, Nancy? Good. Anyone else? All of them? Rachel, nice. Virginia, about 60%. Okay. I'm going to hold it up, 70%. Cynthia, thank you. So 80%, Ben. Good. So there you can see very quickly that there is a lot of talent there that still has some opportunity for additional performance. And especially these top 2 boxes are really crying out for some additional training, additional coaching to move them into that superstar box there. Whoops. Good. Right. So let's start on thinking about development and aligning the performance with the business goals. So it can be very easy to just say, well, I want to work on X, Y, Z. This is where I want to develop. But if that doesn't align with the business goals, it's great, but we don't start moving the needle. So start thinking at a strategic level of how we want to collaborate with a team member in building a plan. So as we spoke about earlier, what are their goals? And then how does that align with the business objectives? So if their goal really doesn't align with any business objectives, then maybe that's something they work on in their own time. Or if it's semi within the wheelhouse, then how do we coach them into seeing the business side of it and how that goal can then align with it? So I think most people, again, probably are familiar with this framework, SMART goals. This is just a great tool for everybody. Even if whichever part of the 9 box they're in, if they're at the bottom and they need to be managed out because they're an underperformer or it was a mishire, then this is a way of saying, right, this is what I need out of you, and this is what you're putting together. You got to hit those goals. So it really helps, and occasionally someone will become a superstar out of nowhere. But if they have no plan, then they're just going to be wandering around, and they may even think that they're doing a great job, and they're very surprised to hear that they're not. So have some sort of methodology around that. And I have them provide it to me first. I don't tell them what they should be doing. They should be very clear on what the business objectives are. That is my job. But then you build your SMART goals and let's discuss them. So I really give them that chance to build it themselves. And then you want to create a cadence of reviewing that plan with them. And it's dependent. It could be a project that's over a certain period of time. So within that project, you might need to meet several times. Could be every quarter. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer necessarily there. But ultimately, you've got a plan laid out now of how we're going to get them from A to B. But then we get into the tactical part. So we've got our strat, we've got the plan, we know how it aligns with the business, but we want to get into the collaboration piece at a tactical level. And so often, and it happens, I still do it, and everybody does it. We just tell people what to do in the haste of our role. Just right, do that, do that, do that. And you know that's it happens all the time. But what are their ideas? And ensure they're speaking up in meetings. So create that safe environment for them to speak up. And some people just have got great ideas and just don't necessarily want to share it in fear of it being seen as not a good idea. So if someone's not speaking up in a meeting, feel free to call on them. Hey, great ideas from you previously. What are your thoughts around this? And then the team member will feel valued. They're able to contribute to the project. They're able to contribute or ideas towards the project. They're able to contribute to how we work. they feel valued, and thus they'll feel motivated around that. And then when you think about the business outcomes of that same motion, you're getting innovation, you're getting a fresh perspective of it. As a leader, it's very easy to just say, all right, well, I've got the experience, I've done this before, I know what I'm doing, off I go, you guys just, everybody follow me. And that's not the case. It's not the case. There's so many times I'm in meetings and my team will come up with something. I'm just like, that's genius. We're going with that. We work so much better because of that. Because sometimes they see it from a different perspective, or they've got more experience or a different experience within a project. So it's a really good opportunity to extract that out of them. And then have them have a point of view. So Stephanie, who's my wife, she laughs at me because anytime my employees or my direct reports ask me a question, the first thing I do is ask them the same question back. I want them to provide some thought around it and what they're doing and why they're doing it and why is this a challenge? Just how do they think? And again, what we start doing now is we start promoting creative and critical thinking. As they go through more and more experience, if they've really thought about it in depth, they may be able to solve it in the future. Might not be able to, but they may be able to solve it in the future without the manager or the leader's interaction. And then you start creating that autonomy where people can just work and they'll do a great job and they'll make great decisions. But we've got to encourage that as leaders. And then there we go. So the business becomes more efficient. The manager's not fielding multiple meetings and calls to get things solved. People are able to say, do you know what? I've been in something similar like this before. Here's how I thought it through before. I'm going to use that experience now to progress whatever this challenge is. And then third, be sure to guide them when their suggestions don't align with the business outcomes. It's very nice to say, right, well, okay, everybody provide your ideas and we'll hear them out. And of course, we want to do that. Okay. However, not every idea is created equally. So sometimes we may get an idea that's a little bit out of left field, and that's okay. Now, a strategy there is to guide them to perhaps a better answer or right answer. You will have a vision as a leader, and you should have a vision of how this would all look. So you may just say, that's a great idea for a multitude of reasons. What do you think some of the side effects or outcomes might be, therefore, if we do it that way? And so you get them to think that problem through a little bit further and their suggestion. And then they come to that realization themselves, but then you're allowing them to create ideas, but then also scrutinize their own ideas. And then again, they feel a sense of pride. So they're okay sharing ideas because they know it's not just going to get shot down. It might just get molded into a different idea. And then ultimately, we're not going off the beaten track. We're ultimately staying on business objectives and we're making sure that we're performing at a very, very high level. But essentially, it's all their idea. So let's think about creating a thriving environment. So simple recognition and rewards. These are very, very simple things that can be done. They have to be done authentically. So it can't be just, right, well, I'm doing it, I've set it in my calendar to send something. But somebody's done something brilliant. Why don't you send an email to their boss and copy them in? Or what my team did very well one quarter, and I emailed the CRO and copied my entire team in and gave them all some praise. And then he followed up with another email heaping the praise on. So, or someone might just do something brilliant and we can provide them their feedback. So it's a very quick thing to do. Doesn't take a lot of lift. But again, it allows the good people to be highlighted in what they're doing, or somebody who's developing to show off what they've done and gone above and beyond. So, and it doesn't have to be email. Sometimes you can use the corporate communication tools, Slack, Teams, however you're functioning, or LinkedIn. So I always make sure your audience is appropriate. It might not be a company-wide email that you need to send out, but maybe it is. But just I always say, just make sure the audience is appropriate when doing things like that. But just anytime we can provide some feedback like that in that format goes a long way. And then could be in your quarterly business reviews, you finish a project, you're in your after action review, highlight key members to that project. Hey, if it wasn't for this person, we might not have hit, the timeline. We may have been delayed. So really good. And then personal feedback. I probably should have put this number one now, I'm looking at it. So personal feedback, surprise or planned. And the reason I say surprised is there's sometimes I've noticed somebody doing something brilliant, and I'll call them up on Teams. I've noticed you did X, Y, Z. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I just needed to highlight that. It was fantastic. And here's why it helps our business unit, our department, our company, or your development. So again, nothing revolutionary there, but how many of us miss those opportunities to just take a chance to give someone some feedback, give some recognition, and just, the proverbial high five. And then think about people's opportunities for growth as well. So you probably have great networks within your organization. You've built them out for many years over your experience and outside of your organization as well. So sometimes the other teammate might not have that level of network. So how do you you might want to introduce them to a person, and then why would that be a benefit to them? So if they're looking to promote into a certain position, hey, you may wish to go meet the leader of them. I'm good friends with them. Here you go. Let me broker an introduction for you. So leverage that network for other people as well. Introduce them into your network. And then mentorship. Can you mentor somebody? There's always people who are dying to hear about your experience and learn from you, and just want to know how you do what you do. So I put there is always time there, because I feel that's one where, well, I've got to spend time with such a person, and it takes up this amount of time a week, and we've got our business outcomes we've got to perform. And to share another story, there's one lad on my team, and he came to me and just said, Chris, I would love to be a manager one day. Do you mind if I just get some time with you to go through that? And I said, absolutely. I said, if there's space on my calendar, feel free to take it. So we set up a cadence, and it's 7:30 on a Thursday morning, every 3 weeks, I think it is. And every 3 weeks we get together, and I always get up early to go and get on that call with him, because it's super important. I want him to develop. I want him to feel like he's going to develop. And ultimately, he's one of my top performers. So you can be sure that I'm going to get up early and go and spend some time with him. But it's also a good chance for him to, to get to know each other at a personal level. So, and then what resources or books can you introduce them to, or what are they reading right now that might be of value? Again, you foster that level of that culture in your team. My team now have a book club. So they actually get a business book and once a quarter, and they go away, read chapters, and they have a meeting on a Friday afternoon. This is all organized by themselves. This is not me doing this. They've organized it themselves, and they will get together and they will go through the chapter, and they self-manage it, and they go through the book, and then they've just started a new book, and so yeah, they've took that on themselves. But at times, the lad who organised it will say, "Hey, what books are you reading, or what books do you recommend?" So always a good one there. And delegate your important tasks. This is what I struggle with, so I'll happily hold my hand up here. But delegate your important tasks. So one of my managers, he's actually taking a well-earned vacation this week. So we've put one of the other lads who he's actually going through his MBA right now at a different university to Emory. But he's going through his MBA. So, of course, he and I are chatting a lot about the MBA piece of it. But hey, can you perform some of the tasks that are left vacant right now? And he is, and he's doing it very well. He's reached out to me a couple of times, hey, I need a bit of help with this, that, and the other. But essentially, instead of me coming back over that team and saying, right, you're all reporting back to me for this week whilst your manager's away, no, let's put this gentleman in charge, and right, you're in charge, and just let me know if you need any help with anything, and allow him to structure the week. And allow people to do that. And then again, feedback at the end of the week. So I've got scheduled time with him at the end of the week. We're going to discuss how it's all gone, and ultimately what he did well, what would he like to have done better given the chance, and supporting that way. So that feedback loop. And then this is a big one. We miss the why so many times. And again, myself included. But I try to inform people of what's going on based on what they want to do. Now, a lot of the sales team, they want to go out into the enterprise world and get into the enterprise field for selling. So as they're going through their sales cycles, it's a good opportunity for me to say, well, this is what the enterprise team might be doing throughout this cycle. Have we thought about that as we're working with this client? So it gives them that chance to then take it away and work at that level. Or if I said that one of the gentlemen wants to be a manager, or a couple of gentlemen want to be managers on my team. So when I'm actually delivering things, I may say to them, I say, right, the reason I'm telling you this, or the reason I'm doing it this way is because of X, Y, Z. Or I might explain a little bit more of the business, and this is why these certain things are done this way. And it gives them a little bit more of an insight to it versus, right, this is the task, we've got to get from A to B, and we miss the chance to actually coach them. And then develop your replacement. I'm sure a lot of you have already heard this, but develop your replacement. So again, with the managerial piece of it, you always want to have somebody who'll be able to cover for you. Because hopefully we talk about everybody else's development, but we've also got to think about our own development as well. So if we can create a talented environment, then it offers an opportunity for you to grow and promote. So make sure you're looking after that part of it as well. This is a very unselfish presentation I'm giving, but there's a part of it as well that is for yourself, and you do all the unselfish part, then ultimately the selfish part looks after itself, so to speak. So in conclusion, people development can work with business outcomes and doesn't have to be mutually exclusive activities. It fosters an environment of trust and collaboration, and you will hear the word trust throughout all managers' books and webinars and seminars. It's always about trust. And you will consistently produce high-performing teams. You will minimize your voluntary attrition, and you will provide yourself the opportunity to grow. So let's start thinking about that new landscape now. So we've done all this hard work week in, week out, and now our employees, our teammates, they feel valued. There's opportunities of career progression. They feel they're developing, and we trust them, and there's this autonomy in their work process. Performance goes up, attrition comes down. So as you do more and more of this work, as you think about becoming the talent magnet and people wanting to work for you in this environment, as more and more of your teammates move into that top right-hand box of the framework, they will love working for you. They will love being with you, and that you will find that you have become a talent magnet. Thank you very much. over to the Q&A.
I'm trying to get my video on. There it goes. So thank you, Chris. I've been busily scribbling down things that I should be doing. So thank you for that. We do have a number of questions that I want to pose for you or to
Okay.
you. Let me just get those up. So Michael asks, do you have a weekly network for your directors? Or is it just more junior team members? Is the basic flow the same, whether they're more senior or more junior in your team?
So if they're more senior in the team, I'll probably gravitate a little bit more towards the KPI part of the role, but as they're more junior, then it definitely leans more into the developmental side of things. So and yeah, as you're working with individuals, everybody's in different places, and I think that's the key to it, and that's why I showed the 9-box model. And that 9-box model changes. So you might have someone as a superstar who now all of a sudden is now a low performer. So it depends on how I know that person could perform, so I'm going to spend some more time there. And then sometimes if they're just a mishire or the job's not fit for them, then it's just right. This is the job. Let's get it done. And they can't do it, then we might have to look at other options. So, but yeah, if they've got more seniority, I'll tend to not overteach them, because then it becomes a bit more of a not condescending, maybe condescending a bit. So I think you work person by person, and that's the beauty and the tough part about this is everybody's different. And so I think it's our job to untangle how this person works, how they respond, and I think that's where you're going to get your best bang for your buck.
Great.
I hope I answered the question correctly there, Nicola.
Yep. No, I think you have. Ben asks, how is it similar to coaching football? Is it developing the person, developing the play? What's that balance?
Yeah, it's same with soccer. So you develop your strategy. How are we going to step out on the field every day? And then as you're in the thick of it, what tactics do we need to adjust to set things on the right path as best we can? But ultimately, it's about the critical thinking part, the question and answering part that I was talking about there. I really would highlight that with working with youth. I wouldn't give them the answers. I've played soccer for basically since I could walk, so I've got a lot of experience. And me just telling them, well, that's great, and then they'll be expected to be spoon-fed. And sometimes that translates to the business world, in that we've got all this experience, and I'm just going to spoon-feed everybody because I know what I'm doing. But they still might not. They say, all right, I'm just doing X, Y, Z because I was told to. But if they can understand, and we can ask the right questions to get them thinking in the right way, ultimately then they'll start thinking for themselves. So I think, and that's where the creativity comes, and it's what I like about soccer. It's and football for my native people. It's a team game, and it's an individual game, and requires a lot of skill and creativity in order to be winners. And so teaching skill and creativity is not easy. So that's where allowing them that environment to think, come up with ideas, feel valued within their ideas, not be scared to take risks. Ultimately, you create that environment and you'll succeed.
Right. So I had a question from Jared, who said, we don't have any issues attracting people to our organization. And the pay is and benefits are great. But when they get here, they realize that they're starting in the bottom of the ladder, and the work that they're being asked to do isn't the work that they think they should be doing. They think they should be being the leader And what we really need them to do is more administrative in nature. How do you deal with that? So they leave. Any
Right.
thoughts about dealing with that? So that no problem attracting, but they have a huge problem retaining.
That's a really good question. I mean, all of them are very good questions. It's a challenging one. I think I'm going to offer some thoughts around that. I think there's two parts to it. So actual hiring process. It sounds like you're getting the talent, so something's going very well. So I love that. I think it was Jack. You said his name was, right?
Jared.
Jared. Sorry, Jared. Yeah, that's so. It sounds like we're doing something right there. It sounds like there might be a communication gap with regards to expectations walking into the door. So I actually, and again, I'm not that I'm right or wrong. When I do my interviewing process, I will actually take them through and sell them on the great things about the role, but I'll also say, here are the challenging things about the role that you can expect. And then they have this very clear picture when they walk in on day one, what the challenges are going to be. Because often we tend to sell it because, hey, this person's really good, I need to get them through the door, which is completely reasonable. So right, here's the challenges. Here's going to be the things that are going to keep you up at night, or and now if they still want to join, when they come in and they're doing the administrative tasks that you've explained out, then one, there's no surprises, and they say, well, okay, perfect. So I know what it is. So that just an additional thought outside of that scope of what we're working on today. And again, I could be wrong in my assessment there, so I apologize if I am. Now, the other part though is if we go back to the one-on-one piece, the first bullet point I put up there is, what are your career aspirations? And well, I would love to be the leader of this department. And right, okay, perfect. So what do you feel would be the right steps you would need to take in order to get to that position? And so we work through this collaborative process, and I would need to do X, Y, Z and perform at this level, and show that I excel at this. And okay, perfect. And where do you feel your gaps are right now that we're not in that position at this point? Well, I don't have this experience, and I probably don't have this certificate. Okay, perfect. So here's the plan, right? And always level set. I say, look, it always comes down to business needs or organizational needs. If there's a position there and you're a top performer and you've been top performer, you're going to be in with a shout. If there's no need, then it could take 6 months, could take 12 months, could take a couple of years. I always tell my team, I say, it's a piece of string. How long is it? We never know. But I say it could be 2-3 years. However, we work on that development piece, and how do we get them the skill sets so they are ready for that next position? And again, it's all on the individual. We're just giving them the tools to use. But we keep developing them. And look, I'm doing my best to put you into this position. And ultimately, they'll feel like they're getting something out of that role. And so that's how I would probably take that task on there in that situation. Hopefully that's of some help.
Yes, thank you. Adrian asks, how do you deal with a manager who consistently cancels the one-on-one meetings? I would add on to that, how do you deal with an employee who also likes to cancel their one-on-one meetings?
Right, let me do the employee one, because I feel that's a little bit of the easier one. So if the employee cancels the one-on-one, I'll ask them what's the challenge with why. I've noticed this is a pattern now. How can we keep cancelling the one-on-ones? Now, my team do cancel, but usually they'll tell me when they can reschedule. So they say, look, here's some times, can we do that? So, but there may be a very good reason why they're cancelling, and if we don't understand that reason why, well, we can't fix it. So why do you not attend? Well, you put it at 4:30 and I've got to go and pick up my kid from school, and oh, well, fair enough. Does 3 o'clock work then? I'm simplifying it perhaps a little bit. But ultimately, if they're doing it to be not part of the team, and it's actually a defiance thing, again, I would try and get under the hood of that and help me understand what the challenge is here. You don't like to meet with me. Maybe you're not getting anything out of the meeting. What would you like to get out of a one-on-one? Is there something I'm doing that's perhaps not favorable in these meetings that causes anxiety to come to the meeting? And so again, allow them to get that understanding out, and it might create a path. Now, if they're just being defiant for some reason, then that's something that you start moving down the performance path. Well, a part of your role is you're expected to come to your one-on-ones, because we talk about performance and KPIs, so you're expected to be there. So what time works for you next week? And you might have to go that route, but the managerial piece, I think you almost reverse that a little bit. In lieu of the manager asking you that question, I would actually just go and present to them and say, I really enjoy our one-on-ones. Here's why I enjoy our one-on-ones. I find developmentally it's great. I get good feedback. I can find out where I can be doing better. And I would really like to do my very best for you in this position. So how do we structure this where you can carve out 15 minutes for me? And I try and present it in terms of them. They want the performance out of me. So look, you want to invest your time in me, and so I would probably try and sell it to my manager that way. Look, it benefits you to come and talk to me for 30 minutes, and
Right.
I hope those strategies help. Good question.
Thank you. Couple more questions. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which ones we can fit in here. So Ben asks, any thoughts on the role that technology might play in facilitating personal and role monitoring and adjustment?
There is some software out there that monitors people, but I think this is a tough question, because we deal with people, and I think this is the one part where we actually start to deviate away from I try and deviate away from technology. Aside from things like Teams and Zoom and FaceTime, because these are the really good opportunity in a remote world to connect with people. And I feel it's really been tough over the last few years as more and more companies have gone remote, to keep that connection. And ultimately, they lose a lot of the coaching and development, and your top people might not see you but once a week. So I think that part of it, I don't know about the monitoring piece. There are softwares out there that do that. I don't deploy any of those. But I think the software that mitigates the fact that we're not in the same room or the same office anymore, I think is just paramount. And camera on. Yes, I know it's a simple one, but if you're looking at my mugshot on the Teams and you just see the box flashing, it's not as important as the opportunity just to chat over the video screen itself.
Right. Brian asks, do you think there's a gap between learning objectives and performance goals in terms of expectations from today's managers? Because they're learning too in this new environment. So as a manager, are we good at setting performance goals and then figuring out learning objectives and trying to help bridge those today, given, we live in an uncertain world, right?
Yeah.
We're constantly changing, having to upskill, having to rethink how things are done.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I'll be honest with you, I don't necessarily have a great answer to. I'll give you my thoughts around it. I just think we've got to, people get lost very quickly, and especially your top performers. And this is because if you think about that 9 box, and in that top right-hand box, people, they're the ones who we leave alone and we don't talk to, because, well, I know for a fact Nicola's going to do a great job, and I don't need to concern myself with her. And then we end up down in the bottom left-hand corner, and we're trying to fix the mishires or the people who don't really want to put in a performance, and then we lose talent. And so it's really tough because, yeah, like I said, I mean, I've only been remote work a couple of years myself, so I just always connect with your people. What do they need? And then how do I help work with them to map out a plan? And what are they trying to learn and develop? And then just have those key check-ins. Key checking. I know it's kind of skipping the same answer on everything, but it's yeah, that's a tough question.
So one last quick question.
Yep.
Should you tell your target replacement that they are your target replacement?
They're
And you're
going to
developing
take my
them
job?
to take your job?
Oh, yeah, I'll tell them. I
tell
say,
them?
look, I would love for you to replace me one day, so I can go and hopefully be further up, GM or in the C-suite. That's the goal. So yeah, I'll just say, look, I'd love to help you get into this position. I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that, and I've had an employee in the past who's actually turned out to be a good friend of mine over the years. He literally said to me one day, he said, I'm coming for your seat, Chris. He said, I really want that seat. I said, good. How do I help you get here? So, and ultimately he did. He got a managerial position alongside me.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I'm going to hand over to Pam to close us out.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much, Nicola. Chris, thank you so much for sharing your practical and practiced insights. You've clearly been doing this for a long time, and I just happen to have some insight to know that you have become well known as a mentor and coach to your teams. So thank you for sharing your insights with us. I am going to share what's coming next for our Business Over Breakfast webinar series. So let me get that pulled up here, and then we'll be off for the rest of the day. So coming up next is building resiliency in business. As Nicola mentioned, we are featuring alums during the month of October, our homecoming month here at Emory University, with Dorotea Bozicolona Volpe. She is the principal at Social Espionage, and she is just a highly energetic and very insightful speaker. So she will be our executive practitioner on October the 16th. Then in November, we will be welcoming Josh Crayford. He will be sharing his insights on neurodiversity and inclusion. And I love this saying. He just says it is as game-changing as AI. When you have attention to the neurodiversity in the way you're leading and in the way you're teaching others. And on November 21st, we will welcome Omar Rodriguez back to the mic, and he is bringing with him Mark Mateo. Mark is the principal head of AI transformation at Salesforce. So you don't want to miss this conversation on AI transformation in marketing. And as Nicola mentioned at the front end of our webinar today, we have a number of upcoming courses. If you want to continue your own learning and development, check these courses out on our website or shoot us an email at executiveeducation@emory.edu to learn more about these upcoming courses. As we like to say in the South, happy fall, y'all, and thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you on the next Business Over Breakfast. Chris, thanks again for being with us and for sharing your insights today. Take care.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.